PlayStation has given us some of the most stunning cinematic adventures in gaming history. But what if their award-winning formula, focused on deeply emotional storytelling, is now subtly trapping them in a cycle of surprisingly familiar themes? For years, we've admired PlayStation's first-party lineup. They've perfected that blockbuster event feeling, pulling us into these sprawling third-person cinematic journeys. And don't get me wrong, the quality, the polish, it's all still there. But lately, as I've played through some of their biggest releases, I can't shake the feeling that we're walking a very well-worn road. It's not just the consistent third-person perspective. It's that a remarkable number of these stories are deeply, profoundly obsessed with the exact same core themes: grief and revenge. And honestly, I'm starting to get a little tired of it. This realization really hit home while playing through Sucker Punch's new title, Ghost of Yotei. Now, I genuinely enjoyed it. The combat is exciting, the exploration rewarding. But the story? As Atsu, you embark on a blood-soaked journey across 17th century Japan, hunting down the Yotei Six to avenge your parents' deaths. It's a compelling setup, yes, but it felt all too familiar. Not only does it echo Assassin's Creed Shadows, which I also played recently, but it perfectly combines that fiery revenge arc with meditations on grief that have become a hallmark for PlayStation Studios. Think back to 2020's The Last of Us Part 2. Ellie's dark, rage-fueled descent into revenge stemmed directly from the death of her father figure, Joel. And the original Last of Us explored Joel's struggle with losing his own daughter. At the time, we called it a wave of sad dad games, with God of War from 2018 fitting right in. But looking back, these weren't just sad dads. They were the foundation for PlayStation's current preoccupation with profound loss. It continues. 2022's God of War Ragnarok builds its narrative around the loss of mothers and sons and the explosive anger that follows. Insomniac's Spider-Man series consistently shows both Peter Parker and Miles Morales battling supervillains while wrestling with their own demons, often from dead parental figures. Returnal, the sci-fi nightmare from 2020, roots its looping trauma in protagonist Celine's familial grief. Even 2025's Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, while not technically first-party, promises a veritable feast of maternal and paternal anguish. Now, don't misunderstand me. These are all masterfully crafted games, each with singular characters and wildly different gameplay experiences. But when you look at them as a collective, you hear them singing from the same hymn sheet. Familial grief sits at the center of so many of these stories. While I absolutely believe mature themes belong in games, it's starting to feel like we're getting hit over the head with the same ideas. This cycle of violence is dangerously close to becoming a loop of diminishing returns. Of course, not every PS5 game fits this mold. Astro Bot certainly isn't an exploration of generational trauma in deep space, and that's precisely why it stood out. Its joy and color felt like a rarity, but it never used to be this way. Remember the PS3 era? Naughty Dog's Uncharted series, even with its later melancholic turns, rooted itself in pulp adventure and treasure hunting. Insomniac gave us Resistance, a wild World War II/sci-fi mashup, and Little Big Planet celebrated creativity and community. These games explored alien invasions, personal expression, and more. They weren't all trying to tell the same story. Today, I can't help but wonder, if a new Jak and Daxter game came out, would it be about an Otzel's thirst for revenge against the killers of his blonde-haired friend? Team ICO's PS2 classic, Shadow of the Colossus, certainly carried a mournful tone, but it found something truly unique and poignant within it, especially since such ideas were far less common in games then. It stands as a unique masterpiece, telling its tale through vagaries and minimal cutscenes, a far cry from the cinematic style we now expect. Crucially, we didn't have 5 more PS2 releases that took its exact contemplations on love and loss and simply rewrapped them. Every new Sony Studio game on that console felt like a fresh experiment, with a different story to tell. This brings me back to Ghost of Yotei. It's a superior game to its predecessor in almost every way, except for its central story. Ghost of Tsushima balanced Jin's personal struggles against a nation's invasion, exploring themes of honor, betrayal, and belonging. It felt fresh when it arrived, hot on the heels of The Last of Us Part 2, before grief seemingly took hold of every Sony storyteller. Perhaps PlayStation's interest in grief reflects the state of the world itself. When we consider when many PS5 exclusives like Ghost of Yotei or Death Stranding 2 were being written, that melancholy is understandable. The COVID pandemic gripped our planet, and themes of unexpected loss and trauma were undoubtedly at the forefront of many minds. It will be fascinating to see if this pattern continues now that the world has, somewhat, settled. Will stories beginning production post-2022 reflect a different global state, or will we keep looking inward at our darkest moments? These are valid tales, and art should reflect its creators, but I truly hope for more variety going forward. We have reason for both hope and skepticism. Insomniac's Wolverine looks promising, packed with gore, but will its mature rating lead us down another familiar path of revenge and burying past demons through ultraviolence? Or will it tap into a different part of his psyche? And Naughty Dog, the very ground zero of this era of grief, is taking on the sci-fi realm next with Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Its first trailer delivered a more fun-filled tone than we'd ever dream of seeing from The Last of Us. I genuinely hope Naughty Dog rediscovers some of that uncharted levity. We'll also see Saros from Housemarque. These upcoming games, some about investigating lost off-world colonies, promise new settings. For my sake, I hope they find wildly different stories to tell, rather than just discover more reminders of grief left behind. So, PlayStation has perfected a certain kind of storytelling, but is it time for them to explore beyond the shadows of grief and revenge? What kind of diverse, vibrant stories are you hoping for from their next generation of exclusives? We want to hear your thoughts. You can find us on our social channels, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the world of tech and gaming.